filmmakers are locked in a constant struggle to realize their true vision, which sometimes can't be done when you're working within the boundaries of science, workplace health, and safety regulations, and, you know, creatures that don't exist. This is where CGI can be a filmmaker's best friend.
Hey, everyone can see all this trippy magic stuff, right?
Even though some people argue that it's ruining the industry, a little computerized wizardry isn't always a bad thing. We're pulling back the curtain on one of the best kept secrets in the biz. Now before we start, can you guess the movie based on these emojis? Stay tuned for the answer. Here are Screen Rant's 10 CGI tricks exposed. Let us know what you think in the comments section down below, and don't forget to subscribe to Screen Rant to stay up to date with all our new stuff. Stranger Things. Arguably the biggest hit in recent memory, Stranger Things was the talk of the town for months, and for good reason. An interesting mix of 80s kitsch spun with futuristic panache made for one heck of an entertaining ride. The showrunners wanted to keep as many of the effects as practical as possible, and sprinkle a little CG in only when necessary. But for those of you hoping to go as the Demogorgon for Halloween, you should know that it was created using a mix of animatronics and CGI, so you should probably get started on that costume now. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. 2016's Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them stars Eddie Redmayne as everyone's favorite magizoologist. The creation of all those magical creatures obviously took a little computer wizardry, but apparently so did everything else. A ton of the environments were digitally rendered, leaving poor Eddie Redmayne to act his heart out in a concrete box most of the time.
Don't just stand there, come in.
Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. Based on the book of the same name, Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children is visually stunning. And if the movie's highly stylized, sort of creepy aesthetic feels familiar, that's because it was directed by Tim Burton. But even though it's tempting to get lost in Ava Green's eyes for 2 hours and 7 minutes, this is one you actually have to pay attention to, because there's like time travel and stuff.
That's absolutely true. There are very few things I can't explain.
There's also a plethora of underwater scenes that would have been totally unsafe to film in real life. But since we live in the future, the VFX people were able to mix in the actors' swimming footage with the creepy environment. 100% safe.
Okay, let's pro-con this superhero thing.
Deadpool. Since the Merc with a Mouth is a Marvel character, fans were expecting a little bit of crossover between properties, and it doesn't take too long for a couple of X-Men to show up. Now obviously, Colossus's appearance was helped along by CGI. And while the actor underneath was tall to begin with, he also wore 6-inch platform boots to make himself even larger. It doesn't look as cool as it sounds. Suicide Squad. If you only watched the press coverage, you might think it was the worst movie ever made. And while some of the CGI usage was out of control, it also caused a bit of a stir. 2 photos of Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn costume hit the internet and concerned citizens cried foul. One version has the character's short shorts really short, while the other just shows them a regular amount of short. People were quick to assume they were made tinier in post, but more than one Screen Ranter thinks it might have been the other way around, and the CGI was in the interest of modesty. Furious 7. The Fast and the Furious franchise is among the most profitable in history. It's right up there with Star Wars, Harry Potter, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The movies have everything: fast cars, big explosions, and rappers turned actors. But the crew were rocked by tragedy when star Paul Walker passed away in 2013. And while the majority of the actors' scenes were filmed for the next installment, they weren't quite done. Walker's brothers Cody and Caleb were used as stand-ins, and the FX department mapped Paul's face onto theirs. X-Men Apocalypse. After his insane debut in Days of Future Past, Quicksilver was back for X-Men Apocalypse in 2016. The fan favorite continues to be a literal showstopper, whipping around the scenes with ease. But for the filmmakers, achieving this effect was the opposite of easy. First, production needed to use a phantom camera, a special rig capable of shooting 3,000 frames per second. Then, they strapped it to a dolly and sent it flying across a track at 90 miles per hour to achieve the practical side of the effect. Guardians of the Galaxy. There is so much CGI in Guardians of the Galaxy that we almost don't know where to begin. Since 2 of the main cast are entirely computer generated, crew members wore shirts with the characters' faces on them. The idea was that Chris Pratt and the rest of the actors would have some sense of where they should be looking, and technically it worked. But when you realize their job description included yelling at a grown man's lower back while running around a spaceship, you can appreciate the straight-faced performances even more. Mad Max Fury Road. Director George Miller is old school. Given the choice between practical and digital effects, his preference is clear. And some fans argue that one of the most interesting things about 2015's Mad Max Fury Road is how sparse the CGI is. Things that seem like they'd be computer generated, like say super dangerous death-defying stunt work, actually happened for real. Production was so plagued with delays that the stunt team had more time than usual to practice their routines. So when it came time to film the scenes, they went above and beyond. The film is guilty of a small amount of post-production manipulation, but it's definitely not as much as you think. Game of Thrones. 3 jewels in Game of Thrones' crown come in the form of Daenerys Targaryen's feisty dragons. And while the show constantly has us questioning everything we think we know, we're still pretty sure dragons don't exist. So what's a Khaleesi to do? The real answer isn't nearly as glamorous. Actress Emilia Clarke is interacting with a fancy ball on a stick so that she knows where she's supposed to be looking. Is CGI ruining movies or making them better? Chime in, speak up, and be heard in the comments below, because we want to know where you stand. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and join the notification squad to become one of the inner circle. It's almost too easy. Thanks for watching.